This is The World According to Jen and Carolyn. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday. This episode
It's going to be heavy.
It's going to be heavy, you guys. It actually was the genesis of Producer Bill. Producer Bill brings the heavy, and he had sent me an article. And we're going to talk about this article in this episode about people on the right really trying to flip the historical script. And in this case saying, did you know that the KKK was primarily comprised of people on the left? To which we say, nay, nay. And we're going to explain to you how political parties were established long ago and how things have changed and identities have changed. But it sure as shit wasn't those of us with left-wing values putting on hoods and terrorizing people of color in this country. So that was the genesis of this episode.
And it's very timely.
Yes.
Because the 4th of July this year, like many years in the past, it's been kind of like what the fuck are we celebrating a little bit too?
Yeah.
In the sense of, I think anyway, I'll leave it at that. But turning on the TV and seeing the Proud Boys take the Metro. And then you've seen all the videos that have come back of like, this is a Pulitzer Prize winning photo of this African-American woman sitting on the bus. It's like, nah, that's their life.
That's just kind of terror.
That's just kind of like being a person of color or an indigenous person in America. It just happens to be captured. But I think this is extremely timely. We've talked about the KKK. We have about Nazis.
We have. Yeah. I mean, but I think it's
in depth.
Yeah. We weave this thread throughout our episodes because what we're experiencing right now is reminiscent of and is a resurgence of these philosophies. And we have not seen this to this extent in our lifetimes, I don't think, with the exception of Trump 1 and Trump 2. Not to this extent. I'm not saying we live in
there.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
But I feel like people are a little bit more scared. I don't know what's scary, that it exists or that people are less bothered to be out in the open with it. But it that's exactly what it is, right?
At least they're visible now, right? At least they're, but I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing because they're being emboldened by someone who is in the highest seat, the highest position of leadership. In the country and throughout the world.
Well, and the laws are different. That was the first comment people made is like, it looks like they're allowed to rally. And the comments were like, oh, well, they're being peaceful. And they're doing this like, no, the police just aren't fucking with them.
Yeah. And they are. I mean, the ACLU stood 10 toes down on the KKK or the Nazi parties, the American Nazi parties' right to march in Illinois.
I don't like that ACLU.
I don't either. Just like I don't like them saying that NAMBLA members are permitted to congregate in public libraries. There are some things that I take issue with. But they're saying that it's a free speech thing. In both instances, it's a free speech thing.
Okay.
I kind of draw the line to hate speech, but what
and like molesting children.
And molesting children.
But that's where the conservative Christian right has found some common ground.
This is very true. When I was in Nashville, this is hella crazy. We left the sanctity of Nashville, which is pretty progressive, except for the people who visit Nashville. I seen a dude in a Gulf of America shirt, and I was like, oh, look at this tourist trash.
Yikes.
And then when we left Nashville to go to a flea market, because this is what me and my husband do, we were pickers. I saw a guy in a fucking shirt that said, shoot your local pedophile. And I went up to him and I was like, that's a great shirt, bro. He's like, thank you kindly, ma'am. And I was like, we can agree on something. Pedophiles suck. Yeah. Amen. That's about all. That's about all I can agree with. So anyway, today's episode, as we've we've insinuated is about the KKK. It's called Ghost of the Invisible Empire, The History of the KKK, Memory Wars, and the Psychology of Extremism. And there's going to be some reoccurring themes here, guys. We talk about the psychology of extremism. We talk about cults. We talk about all this stuff, but it bears repeating because it really helps us to understand what's going on with these hate groups. I'm not saying it should make us sympathetic to where they're coming from. It's just really good to understand.
Know thine enemy, though.
Yeah,
right?
It's important. That's why my husband will occasionally turn on Fox News. And I'm like, pull the curtains. Nobody can see us watching this.
Dude, I did that someone put out a post and it was, I don't even know who was it Megyn Kelly? I don't know who it was. And they were just talking about people. I was like, this is so, I hadn't heard it in so long.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
it's very jarring.
Vile.
It's jarring.
It's so hateful.
I know.
Like, it's
I know. And so inaccurate.
Spewing hate.
So inaccurate. Truly. So let's jump into this.
All right,
I think the time has come. So in 1925, there were 40,000 robed Klansmen who marched down Pennsylvania Avenue in broad fucking daylight. So by then the Klan was kind of like this fringe. It wasn't a fringe movement. It was mainstream. Like you could do this. You could march down the street in front of the White House, and it was elected officials. It was cops. It was judges. It was people in positions of authority.
People who could afford a spare set of sheets.
Right.
That they could cut. I can't cut these up. We're going to use our trauma to make a lot of jokes during this because
we are.
I don't know how else to behave.
It reminds me of Sinners where he's like, y'all Klan? They're like, nope. we're actually something not as bad as the Klan. Vampires, nowhere near as bad as the Klan. Anyway, so it was a status symbol back then. It wasn't shame. You could boldly walk down the street boldly, your face was still covered in shit. Like you're still that big of a pussy. So, we want to talk about this because as we said, like history definitely has a way of repeating itself, and extremist groups are definitely more visible in this administration. And, the right, like we said, is trying to rewrite history, claiming that the Klan was simply a movement of the left. And that's fucking stupid. So we're going to jump into that. Let me scroll past 150 sources because we really sourced the shit out of this. Carolyn, do you remember when you first heard about the Klan?
Homesick, second grade.
Yeah.
No, it couldn't have been second grade because Jerry Springer was on. It had to be later than that.
Okay.
But I saw them on Jerry Springer. But I remember also in history textbooks.
Okay.
And that was as the only Jewish person in my school. And then there was like 2 black chicks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone would ask us what we thought.
Oh my God. Let's ask. Can you do me a big favor and just make sure that camera's still running? Because I don't think my husband. Okay. Turned on do not disturb. And we just got a text from the dog walker. But anyway, I hate that. But kids don't know any better, right? Than to check with the,
hey,
the minorities in the room.
What do you think of the Klan?
I don't like them. They want to kill me. Like,
well, it was very shocking though. Cause I remember the Jerry Springer one. I don't think I equated it to them not liking Jews, but we all were I went to a Lutheran school and we saw them burning crosses in the pictures. And so it just felt really like, whoa. But on Jerry Springer, I remember I asked my mom, I was like, there's like people who hate us.
Yeah.
And then I remember that's when she talked to me about like the Holocaust and stuff. Just like, that's why your dad and I tell you not to talk about being Jewish because people don't like Jewish people.
Right.
Be careful.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I hear you. Yeah.
and now I'm on a podcast.
I know.
I mean it to the
and now
ends
everybody knows.
I'm Jewish.
I do vividly remember the Jerry Springer stuff and like these people bringing on like a baby and a Klan robe and shit. I remember that. Right. That was a big part of our upbringing was Jerry Springer and all of the shit that came with that. So, again, the genesis of this was, so it was a few weeks ago, it was a sitting member of Congress, actually, who said something that made people like me and Carolyn want to throw our fucking laptops across the room. She said the KKK, the Nazis, and the Aryan Nation are, quote, far left organizations and always have been. Now, I get being able to dupe people because when you look at like the Nazis, for instance, they were like the something socialist party. I can't remember, but they're not. They're not
the same way.
It's not the same thing. So, this representative, Harriet Hagman of Wyoming, she didn't say it in passing. She built an argument around it, tied it to a federal indictment against the Southern Poverty Law Center, which, God bless the Southern Poverty Law Center. If you don't know their work, look it up. They are constantly following, tracking, and reporting on hate groups and categorizing any new group that emerges that spouts hate as a hate group and makes people aware of them. So if you're looking for an organization to donate to, if you feel helpless, the Southern Poverty Law Center is that organization. I guarantee you. But, this is ridiculous, you guys. So we're going to try to do two things today, right? So we're going to actually walk through the real history of the KKK, not this bullshit that you're hearing, not some meme version, the real thing in three distinct waves, because a lot of confusion in this debate comes from people conflating three very different organizations that all happen to wear the same name. So we want to clear this up, just so if ever we know that our listeners are smart enough to know that the right is spewing nonsense and alternative facts. But if ever you are confronted with one of these morons in the wild, you'll want to know what to say in response if you even want to engage with them. So fair. The second thing we're going to do is look at what's happening right now, 2025, 2026, under this administration, with the group's tactics and rhetoric that researchers say are drawing directly from the same well. Like, we have to pay attention to this. We have to look at what sociology tells us about how a fringe idea becomes a mainstream one. And again, and we say this all the time, essentially with every topic we focus on, if you think we're being dramatic, if you think this is hyperbole, if you think we're alarmists ringing a bell that need not be rung, then you are not paying attention to history. Yeah. Or what's going on currently. Because unfortunately, too often in human history, we've dismissed things like this until it's too late. Right. Well, and then 6 million of us are dead.
Or people are saying slavery ended. What? Get over it. What's the problem?
Yeah.
It's like,
you're acting like Jim Crow didn't exist. You're acting like the prison industrial complex, the new Jim Crow, doesn't exist. Like, it's insane. So one thing is like front and center, and this is genuinely contested political terrain, right? The people who make the the KKK equals the modern left argument, and the people who make the KKK equals MAGA argument, they're both making political claims, but not necessarily historical ones. So we want to give you the documented history. That part isn't really in dispute among historians. And we're going to be honest about what's currently going on so that people understand. Like, yes, we want to simply cast the moniker of Nazi or Klansman at people who support Trump. Right. But there's just so much more.
There's so much more nuance to their hate.
There's a lot of nuance. So let's talk history, you guys. Let's talk about the first Klan. So this is during Reconstruction. This is immediately following the Civil War, 1865 to 1871. So the first KKK formed in Tennessee, of course it did, after the Civil War, founded by former Confederate soldiers. And what began as a secret society quickly became a terrorist organization dedicated to overturning Reconstruction through intimidation, lynching, arson, and violence against Black folks and the white officials who supported equal rights. So one important point, today's political parties are not the same as they were in the 1860s. While many of the Klan's early members identified as Democrats, the party underwent major ideological changes between them and now. So looking at the 1866 Democrats compared to what we are currently, it's totally misleading. Right. So Congress responded with the 1871 KKK Act. President Grant aggressively enforced it, largely dismantling the first Klan. But the ideology didn't disappear. And it lived on through something called the lost cause narrative, setting the stage for the Klan's resurgence decades later. So here's the psychological question for you, Carolyn. How does the society convince itself, and we've talked about this, to romanticize or normalize a violent movement once the violence is no longer front and center? So what makes people want to embrace this comforting myth instead of confronting really a painful truth?
I mean, these are the episodes where it's so hard. Like, understanding the conscious lying that goes on, because I don't think people are inherently evil. I know you're taught to be that way. So in some ways, like, this is such a good, the psychology part of me is like fascinated by this, right? But your mind is doing what their minds are doing, what their minds do. In other words, they want coherence. Mm-hmm. They want to avoid shame. They want to protect the relationship that they're in over truth. Ku Klux comes from a Scottish term for circle.
Oh, okay.
And if you think about the founder, who came from Scottish Irish, is it Pulaski?
I think so. I'm not sure.
I thought was Polish, but so you're in a circle. You're part of a group.
Yeah.
We're the first ones to say community works, right? It just depends what the community is doing. So we've got a couple things that I'll talk very briefly about, because we've talked about this in depth, but collective moral disengagement. So Bandura, famous psychologist, talks about sort of this euphemistic renaming of you're really just, it's your heritage you're proud of. It's not hateful to be proud of being white, even though we know white is not a heritage. States' right, redemption, lets a whole culture sort of launder organized terror into something that sounds like a tradition.
Yeah.
And one that, again, inherently, like you saw that with the Daughters of the Revolution.
Oh, right.
They're like, cool, trans women can join us.
Yeah.
We don't fucking care.
Right.
We will move with the times. Right. Like, I'm all about
an evolving
tradition.
Group.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've got this collective moral disengagement. We talked about betrayal trauma, but this is on a societal scale. So you're dependent on this community. There's a family lineage. There's a national identity. Mm-hmm. Even if it's harmful, not being a part of that would feel really destabilizing. So you're American History X, you're in the cult till you're not.
Right.
And, so the psyche protects that bond, even though it's not based in facts. And the same mechanism as an individual trying to stay loyal to someone who hurt them. Yeah. So from polyvagal or nervous system, I'd say that's like, what's the word?
Like survival.
Oh, God, I'm stupid. I cannot think of the word.
We all blank.
Okay,
we're in our 40s.
It'll come to me. All right, nervous system lens. Maybe this will remind me. Myth is regulating. Truth is shameful.
Yeah.
So anything you say to me that's truthful is going to make me have a threat response if I'm already relying on violence.
Yeah.
So romanticizing the past is often a way for the nervous system to move towards safety. So like, think about like that ex that you dated who was horrible, but you're going to romanticize them, even though it's not.
And guys,
make any sense.
All do this. Think about, and of course we're right, so it's different, but think about when somebody on the right challenges what we hold to be true.
Sure.
Truths that we hold to be self-evident.
Yeah.
Borrowing from the Constitution. You feel it in your body.
Yeah. So they feel the same thing.
They feel the same thing. They're just wrong.
They're just wrong. Yes. Well, there, end of story. So I'm always into like Jungian shadow work and stuff. Mm-hmm. So when what society can't integrate about its own capacity for cruelty gets split off and re-narrated. So we're the noble ones and they're the others.
Yeah.
Right. So we just basically frame that, except that we're right. So literally what's happening. So again, power lens, myth making, end of story is, the people who are harmed rarely have the institutional power to shape how it gets remembered.
Okay. That's very true.
Right. And even when we have the pictures, and we do, history has those pictures. But
unfortunately, there are a lot of those pictures. And but people will look at those pictures and say, people who are in a movement or a group that is similar to those who were the architects of the pictures of Black folks hanging from trees and say, yeah, that's wrong, but that's not what we're doing. And it's like, no, it is.
Exactly. And it's still happening.
Doing.
And it's not being publicized. And you're not seeing that in mainstream media because the government owns the media. So so all of this put together is how violence gets sanded down into this like sick pride.
Yeah.
For the same pride we feel about being good people.
Yeah.
They feel that on the other side, and we're the enemy who's trying to fuck with them.
And white folks have been conditioned to hang their hat of superiority on this notion that by virtue of being white, they're better. Mm-hmm. That is an indoctrination strategy that our country came up with in order to ensure that working class people or enslaved people, whether it be indentured and chattel enslaved folks, like coming together and saying, this is wrong. This was a very divisive, deliberate tactic. And that philosophy, that framework keeps moving with white people. And now you have the Trump administration that is saying that quiet part out loud, reinforcing this false sense of superiority. So these people feel emboldened again.
Well, and it's such a uniquely American, like there is no Klan outside of the United States. They've tried to make, I mean, you can't say like, oh, well, in England, they were doing this, it's like, no, Klan is as American as apple pie. That it is here.
But there's plenty of racism and ideas of superiority that exist outside. Look at what in France they were doing to Muslim folks, right? Like it is pervasive. And throughout the world, whiteness, not throughout the world, but throughout, I would say, Western civilization, this notion of whiteness being tied to superiority is pervasive and it's everywhere. You even go to places in Latin America and it's like the whiter your skin is, the more value you have in that society. I've known Filipino girls who got bleaching soap to make their skin whiter because even I can't speak for any culture, not even my own, you guys, but I've seen this with darker skinned people who want to aspire to this ideal.
The made up construct.
Right.
That,
it's really sad.
It's sick.
And then you have white people who just want to be brown and make their lips gigantic and adopt features that are not Anglo.
Yeah.
And it's like you're appropriating and hating simultaneously. It's so sick.
Yeah.
I can't.
I know.
I can't. That's an episode. That's another episode in and of itself.
I remember when I went to the coincidentally the African American Museum in Washington, where all the MAGA had to go during the 4th of July because there was a store about them. All you fuckers, just like they should turn off the Wi-Fi.
They really should have.
No, you go look. They're all just laying there on the floor. But they talked even about how this was in fashion, that they, white women be tiny and skinny, but acculturate these, like, we want you to have these big bustles.
Yeah,
to
look
give
at the Kardashians.
Yeah. Oh, well, don't get me started on that. I know way too much about them without even trying.
God. So let's talk about the second Klan. So let's talk about the 1920s, which was in essence the Klan's biggest era. It's your the roaring 20s for the Klan, y'all. So here's a fact that genuinely surprises people. The Klan's largest membership, its greatest political power, and its most mainstream moment was not right after the Civil War. It was in the 20s. At its peak, estimates run from 3 to 6 million members nationally. That is fucking insane. And the geographic center of gravity shifts too. So everyone pictures the Klan in the Deep South. Not necessarily.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They saturated they were in Indiana. So the 1920s, Indiana was the spot to be if you were Klan, baby. Historian Linda Gordon's research and Timothy Egan's book of Fever in the Heartland both make this case. So the Indiana Klan didn't just have members. It effectively captured the state Republican apparatus, elected a governor, elected mayors, elected a majority of the state's legislator. The second Klan is also a fundamentally different organization in its target list. So the first Klan, almost exclusively about controlling Black Americans in the former Confederacy. Second Klan,
they diversified.
Yeah, born partly out of the 1915 film, Remember the Birth of the Nation? Cinematography, brilliant. That was like the first like real motion picture, I think. But it was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And refounded the same year at Stone Mountain, Georgia, adds Catholics, Jews, and immigrants to its enemy lists. And on top,
which most of those people probably were initially.
I know, right? On top of continuing anti-Black racism. So It's explicitly 100% Americanism movement, nativist, Protestant, prohibitionist. That became the core essence of this shit. So
I love how they're prohibitionists too.
And they were all drinking.
I was going to say, I'm like, worst advocacy ever.
Oh yeah. These guys were getting wasted. So in this era where it's genuinely publicly respectable in huge swaths of the country to be Klan, they're recruiting through fucking newspaper ads, massive public parades, 40,000 robed marchers down Pennsylvania Avenue in 1925.
Wow.
Doctors, ministers, business owners, police chiefs. Joining wasn't a secret shame. Lots of people were doing it. They were using it as a networking opportunity. So this is early LinkedIn was the Klan.
Fuck.
LinkedIn for Whitey.
Yeah.
So fucked up. So 1920s Klan's collapse is almost as instructive as its rise. Okay, so it comes down largely because of one man, a dude named D.C. Stevenson, who was the Grand Dragon of Indiana. He kidnapped, brutally assaulted, and raped a young woman named Madge Oberholzer. Died from her injuries and from poisoning herself in an attempt to escape him, but not before dictating a deathbed statement that named him.
Right on.
Good girl. That testimony convicted him of second-degree murder, exposed the rampant corruption of Klan-captured politicians across Indiana, and public disgust did the rest. So membership craters through the 1920s and into the Depression. So here's the talking point worth sitting with, and it's a sociological one. So Carolyn, I'm going to turn this to you. Extremist movements that achieve mainstream respectability often aren't defeated by direct ideological argument. They're often undone by scandal, internal corruption, by the gap between their moral posturing and the behavior of their own leaders. We're seeing that right now.
Are we?
Yes, but nobody's doing anything about it.
I was going to say, I'm like, wow, way to rape was their line.
Yes.
Cool.
The pattern.
Way to go, 1920s Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
You had actual.
Now we have a whole huge file full of powerful pedophiles, and we're doing nothing.
I was going to say, I'm going to guess Madge Oberholzer was a white lady.
Based on that name, I'm going to say yes. Is that still recording? We just got another text. Sorry, this is going to happen throughout the episode.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, so Carolyn, we've talked about psychology here before, but it's worth revisiting. So I don't know if you answered this here, but
we're going to kind of leave it as a rhetorical question. But
okay. You're going to answer this later for me. So how do millions of otherwise normal people like doctors, ministers, neighbors, people who go to church every Sunday join a movement that requires them to see entire categories of people as subhuman?
Well, I think we have to, we're going to get back to this, but we have to look at the bias in what we're saying. Who said doctors, ministers, teachers? That's true. Right?
Why are they the moral authority?
They're not. Mm-hmm. They're often not. They're people in power. Mm-hmm. So to me, it goes perfectly hand in hand.
Yeah.
I also think historically, the fact that this is happening when you're looking at what would be going on in Europe, like there has to be a connection.
Of course.
With, here we are at the bringing on of the First World War. And what was
Hitler was looking at our racism, our Klan,
right?
As inspiration for his movement.
Yes.
He loved people like Ford.
Mm-hmm.
Henry Ford, who was so fucking racist and anti-Semitic in particular. One of them kept a picture of the other on their desk.
Oh, really?
I'm almost positive it was Hitler who kept a picture of Henry Ford on his desk.
Dorks.
Yeah, dorks and dorks with power and the ability to kill our people.
So Silicon Valley.
Yes. And we're seeing it again. This is what's so scary.
I know. Yeah.
So let's talk about the third Klan. Okay. So this is the civil rights era and then the long decline that comes subsequently. So this is the mid 1950s through the 1960s. This is mostly in the South. And this is the Klan most people picture when they hear the name. It's smaller. It's more fragmented. It's more violent per capita. and it deployed specifically against the civil rights movement. So,
and also, sorry, I'm going to make a correction.
Yeah.
Pulaski, Tennessee. Pulaski's not a person.
Oh, okay.
I was wrong.
Okay. But you had Pulaski in your mind.
I was like, Pulaski, he must be the first Polish.
He must be Polish.
Grand poobah wizard. Whatever.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
Wizard. I just want to be I'm like, don't appropriate dragons. Dragons are cool. You can't be a grand dragon.
Well, it was so
Go away.
I think I've talked, this is so random, but remember I talked about Job's daughters?
Vaguely?
It's like my mom was an Eastern Star and my dad was a Mason.
Okay.
And we had to do this thing called Job's daughters.
Where you pledge your virginity?
I don't know. No, I was too young. My sister had to do it, but you had to wear like these white, like things that have like little ties on your boobs. And it was very strange. But it was all in the Scottish Rite Auditorium in San Francisco.
Weird.
But there were like secret, it was like very fraternity like. But I remember being like, are we wearing white robes like KKK people?
Oh my God. I'm glad you asked that question. So back to the Klan of the civil rights. So the era of the Freedom Summer murders in Mississippi in 1964, this is like Mississippi burning stuff, you guys. So, this gets me very upset. So James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner, they were killed by Klansmen working with local law enforcement. So the 1963 bombing of 16th Street Baptist Church, this is the 4 little girls. Spike Lee did a movie about this, the assassination of Medgar Evers. This Klan operates in smaller cells, often with direct cooperation from local police and sometimes elected officials. This is why federal intervention became necessary again. So the FBI had to get involved. Mm-hmm. They created infiltration campaigns and eventually more Ku Klux Klan Act civil suits. Mm-hmm. So back when the FBI was somewhat dependable, it's genuinely worth naming. So this is the era most tied with the realignment we mentioned earlier. So the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which is systematically being dismantled right now by the Supreme Court. Thank you very fucking much. Under a Democratic president, triggers a decades-long migration of white segregationist Southern Democrats toward the Republican Party. Okay, so keep that in mind. This is when that shift came about. What's often shorthanded as the Southern strategy. Remember that. So historians disagree on the precise mechanics and timeline, but the broad trend that the parties, regional and racial coalitions, essentially flipped between the 1930s and the 1980s. It's well documented, y'all. This is indisputable historical fact. So I'm breathing and it's going to come up in the mic. Which brings us right back to why a claim like Hagman's lands the way it does. It's cherry picking the label Democrat.
Right.
From a sentence in 1866 and ignoring the fact that the coalitions behind that label reorganized almost completely over the following century. Mm-hmm. Historians across the political spectrum have called this kind of argument the MS Now piece we're using as a jumping off point. So that's the article that this came from, what I'm quoting here, that woman Hagman. So it's absolutely ridiculous. And from the 1970s onward, the Klan as a mass movement essentially dies. What survives is a scattering of small, often rival factions, a few thousand members nationally today, according to most watchdog estimates like the Southern Poverty Law Center. Some allied with neo-Nazi groups, some feuding with each other over doctrine and leadership. The name still carries symbolic weight, but the organization itself, fucking dead, you guys.
The KKK.
The KKK, for the most part, is fucking dead. Mm-hmm. So there's still people who think like that. But
they're called Proud Boys.
Yes, and they are a shell in terms of membership numbers of what the Klan was. But still, same ideology. But much smaller and more fractured.
And I mean, I guess the internet didn't help this.
The internet didn't help it. And that's what's made these assholes more easily able to connect. Jesus. So Carolyn, I think this is actually the most important thing to understand for the rest of this episode. When people today argue about the Klan, they're almost never talking about an organizational threat. So the literal Klan, as we're saying, as a membership organization, small, marginal, ineffective, nothing. There are arguments about something else. It's this ideological lineage, tactics, rhetoric. And that's a much more contestable argument. So talk to us more about the psychology of hate movements. And I know we've talked about this before, but it bears repeating.
Yeah, I think people, it's like we want to know, are these people just inherently bad? Are they just uneducated? Are they not paying attention? Are they just mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, before it's ideology, I'm going to go to the most basic thing in psychology is attachment theory. So John Bowlby, Mary Ainsworth built this field, how humans bond and seek safety. And this is the same with animals. We see the similar things. So without a secure base, that's John Bowlby's book, people look for any structure offering unconditional belonging and a role.
Yeah.
And the ideology is secondary. It's the safety under attached nervous system is striving for. The word I was looking for was appeasement. That I think also, I would venture if you're a woman, you're in an appeasement role. If you are, or a child, well, if you're a kid, you can't help it.
It's right? Like modern day Stockholm.
But we don't call it Stockholm anymore. It's appeasement because if that's your husband and you're being in a culture that's telling you have no rights and you're subpar to your husband, I'm not letting anyone off the hook.
I get it.
However, okay, so attachment theory is one of my favorite. I hate that it's even a theory. It feels like a fact.
Yes, it is.
Stephen Porges, the neuroscientist who reshaped how we understand the nervous system's role in safety. But again, we could take this back to bell hooks. We can take this back to James Baldwin. We can take this back generations and the Grateful Dead even. Like, again, movements are good at manufacturing co-regulation, ritual, chanting, uniforms, camaraderie. That's not just an atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's a recruitment mechanism and it works both ways, right?
Yeah.
So a dysregulated nervous system. So I think when you see poorer whites, uneducated whites, people who are being fed that it's not your fault. Someone's taken something from you, and it's the Jews or it's the blacks or it's this or that. You're being fed that nonsense. So your beliefs are basically the price of admission, and it's the more dysregulated your system, the more you're going to read those cues as relief.
Yeah.
But most models, when we're only studying the followers, we're not getting the bigger picture, right? So what you're modeling in this narrative of history is these were people in power who realized, I don't have to walk down the street in my fucking white robe. I can put on a suit and own this place and do whatever the fuck I want. So charismatic hate movement leaders often map onto malignant narcissism. Otto Kernberg's term for this personality pathology is basically that of a non-homicidal sociopath, which is very well adhered to. It's seen as a pro. CEOs, people who I could tell you every young 20-something client of mine is obsessed with being successful and the striver's dilemma. We see these things as, oh God, you've reached this height. You're really succeeding. You and I would look at it and go, no, you're a narcissist. You're kind of sociopathic, right? So contempt for outsiders, total loyalty demanded. Independence is punished as betrayal. What really is being sold is borrowed grandiosity. You're not overlooked. You're chosen. Betrayed, not beaten. That is a very powerful hook for someone who's dealing with a lot of private shame. So again, the way we talk about the loneliness epidemic, it's internalized shame. Self-determination theory. I love this one. DC and Ryan's research on what humans actually need, which is autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Very lovely, right? When nothing else meets those, a hate movement offers a cheap version of all three. What do we say? It's like the Temu version of actual self-confidence.
It pretty much is.
Join the Klan.
The Temu of belonging.
Of belonging. So you get a role, presidency. You get a hierarchy, you get a brotherhood. Like those are not bad things if that's all you got, I suppose. So you would think any rational person, this is where you get into like, but why? Like you would think like, but don't we all follow this code that killing's wrong? Well, then you wouldn't have the Crusades. Then you wouldn't have any wars we talk about, right? If you think you're on the side of good, you're going to do what you think you need to do.
And also if you're isolated, like geographically isolated, and somebody who looks like you, if everybody looks like you, and you have no exposure to anything else. And these people who look like you, talk like you, think like you, have the same values as you are telling you that joining this group is a good idea for the sake of belonging, you're likely going to do it.
Well, and that culture has to believe that as well. Right. So it makes me think, like, from a sociological perspective, how many large cultures, when another person that doesn't look like them comes in, they might be more welcoming and more kind versus, this makes me, I'll have to look this up. Like, would that culture automatically, just because you're another that looks different from them, like, shoot you and kill you?
I mean, I think that's typically, however, I mean, if you look at Columbus's writing, he talks about I can never pronounce this right, guys. It's the Taino Indians, the folks, the indigenous folks. And I think it was the Dominican Republic that this dumb motherfucker landed in, thinking it was the Americas, or thinking it was America, but maybe it is technically part of the Americas, right? But West Indies. I distinctly remember him writing about how the people came and gave gifts. And he specifically said how easy they would be to enslave or subjugate, something along those lines. Like, you fucking piece of shit. Yeah. Like, these people are doing what is so not like intrinsically in us. I think we're taught to fear the other. Yes. These people were like, oh, cool. Who are these people?
You might have cool shit to trade.
Yeah, right? Oh, they're
you make spaghetti?
We've never seen motherfuckers this color before. Yeah. Like, let's bring them some cool shit. Yeah, exactly. Let me touch your white ass hair. But like, how easy they would be to that's the sad part. It's like, yeah, there are people who welcome the other, and then there's people who are like, let's enslave these people. They're so nice. Let's fucking enslave them.
Exactly.
God damn it.
So that's where you get into Henry, I can never say his name right, Tajfel. Because this is where you're going deeper into this basic in-group bias, right? Yeah. So he's a social psychologist, Henri Tajfel, maybe that's how you say it, a social psychologist who survived the Holocaust, and showed how fast the them versus us splits. Yeah. Even over arbitrary assignments. So if you add race, religion, nationalism, economic uncertainty, the split gets bigger and bigger. Yeah. And what he doesn't explain is why some splits harden into cruelty and others don't. So, that's where we're always, I think, thinking, like, even what was the book I finished about the Nazi psychologist who was like, nah, they're just like us. Like, there's nothing inherently crueler about them, the Nazis. And everyone was like, we don't like your book. Fuck you.
Because people don't want to believe that we have this potential.
And I think people do. I could, Anyway, I'm not high enough to have that conversation. But research on authoritarianism, let's go back to that, and status threat backs up Tajfel's theory, which is rarely about actual financial hardship. It's belief that people like me and I need to keep status and keep influence in order to keep that perception driven. Yeah. And that you're going to move people who do well with that, move better into extremist movements than someone who is like, I don't need that. Yeah. Cool. I just want to sit and chill and smoke a joint with you and listen to some Hendrix. Like,
God damn it. I love the 60s.
I know, everything with me.
But then things got violent there too.
I know. Well, dudes got involved, right?
Yeah. Hell's Angels got involved and fucked shit up. Goddamn meth. Meth did it.
Meth did it, right? Yeah. So Bandura, again, I talked about him earlier, one of the most cited psychologists over the last century, says the moral disengagement. I talked about that. Here's another one, though, the staircase to terrorism. Have you heard of this? I'm so sorry for this name.
I've heard of the stairway to heaven, not the staircase to terrorism.
And she's flying a staircase to terrorism. Yeah. So Fathali Maghadam, he did extensive work for organizations studying terrorism prevention. And he reminds us that radicalization is gradual. People never reach the top floor, which means intervention is possible. So again, it's step by step. Yeah. Although I'm pretty sure nowadays, if you join the Proud Boys or these alt-right movements, you might know what you're getting into. Yeah. But anyway, so
everything's online now.
Everything's online. I love Carol Gilligan's counterframe to all this. Okay. And she's a psychologist who argued morality is about care and relationship, not just rules. her question was, who was left without connection and by what systems? That's not an excuse. It's a different diagnostic way of looking at this. It points towards building belonging, not just deprogramming ideology. And so, again, people don't just join a hate movement. They're persuaded into it. And they join because something is missing in them. They're starving for something. Yeah. And a bad actor showed up with food first.
And it makes sense, too, in terms of as much as I want to like castigate these people, if that's the right word, and be like, no, fuck you. You can't sit with us.
It's okay.
It's like these folks are looking for connection and belonging. And if we also are like, you're wrong for joining this group, and also fuck
come
you,
join our group.
or like, fuck you can't be near us because we're disgusted by you, instead of like calling in.
I know.
Then what happens? But it's hard, right? It's like what Nelson Mandela did around like the Truth and Reconciliation committees. Like, how do you forgive your neighbor who killed your family?
They
did it also in Rwanda. Mm-hmm. Like, how the fuck do you do that? I don't know. I'm not that big of a person.
I'm not good at forgiveness. I'm kind of a one and done, which has burned me in my life, though.
And it burns these people. And I think that increased burns are just going to push them further and further into radicalization and hate.
Yeah. Well, I think the key to anything is education and removal.
But the ultimate education, I think, for people who are unfamiliar with traditional, like academic education that you and I are so well fortunate to be so well versed in, is feeling, belonging, connecting. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard thing to do to somebody who ideologically stands for everything that you stand against.
Mm-hmm. Well, and more outside of the Western psychology realm, we would look at how Eastern, they would be in what's called a dark heart phase.
Oh, dark heart, yeah.
Where you disconnected from your heart, you don't feel, you have no, and that's why the right hates empathy.
Yeah.
And they call it weak.
Yeah, they want that disconnection. And it's funny because, you read, if you went to grad school in San Francisco, you read Paulo Freire, and you read about the pedagogy of the oppressed, which is largely predicated on, I'm going from like 15 years of memory here, on love and not doing to your quote unquote enemy, not replicating the same systems of oppression.
Absolutely.
And that's the hard part. Human beings, I think, we are so punishing. And I'm not saying I'm above this. I'm not.
Oh, I'm the worst.
Yeah.
My mom said I used to do that. I'd be like, if my sister got in trouble, I'd be like, how are you going to punish her?
Yeah.
And I watch.
We all want retribution.
Fuck.
Right? But you're not alone.
Right.
We all are, to an extent. We want that retribution. We want to see people pay for their quote unquote crimes.
We have to be taught differently.
We do, because how are we not just perpetuating the same cycle if we're consistently looking to the same structures and the same penalties for certain behaviors?
Yeah.
When we know, psychologically speaking, all these folks want is to feel connected and to belong.
It's hard,
but it's hard.
It's hard when it's hard when your solution is murder. You want to have your little Klan party, cool. You have your little cookout. You hang in your yard.
I should not pound on the table. It's gonna be
right. Like, you do your thing, but the minute you get out and you're like talking about murdering, and then you actually do it.
All I can think, and it's totally
the Dave Chappelle, right?
No, all I can. Oh, you mean the Black Klansman? But all I can think about is, and it's totally completely opposite. For some reason, I keep thinking.
I'm not in your head. I want to know.
Forrest Gump, where he's like,
"Oh, yes,
sorry, I ruined your Black Panther party."
Yeah. When I asked Mario, I asked him, I was like, "What's your first memory of knowing about the KKK?" And he's like, "Oh, the Forrest Gump movie." I'm like, "No!"
Oh my God.
Like, he's like, "Sorry, messed up your KKK part." I'm like, "No,
that wasn't
wrong.
That. It wasn't the KKK. It was the the Black Panthers.
Party.
It's great. And there was that white asshole and he punched him in the face and he deserved it.
They shouldn't have let that white guy in.
Well, he beat on his woman.
Well, it's the war.
Oh yeah. That's son of a bitch Johnson. Okay.
I'm so tense.
We went down a very weird trajectory here. We are not trying to associate the Panther Party with any of this.
No,
for
we
some
need
reason.
more. I want the
Forrest
Black
Gump
Panthers
just jumped into
against the Proud Boys. Let's go.
Yes. And the Panthers are back, y'all. And we should do an episode on that.
You want to bring the Klan back? All right.
Yeah.
We'll bring the Panthers back, bitch.
I'll see you one Klansman and I'll raise you 20 Panthers. Oakland, bitch. I can't wait. So we're going to skip ahead a bit because we're a bit long-winded. Okay. So let's talk about the comparison that we started this with. Does MAGA equal the Klan? Is that a fair assessment? So let's engage the harder question. Our source article gestures.
They're so stupid.
I know. It's hard. Remember, 54% of Americans read at a 6th grade level. So this is what we're dealing with. But anyway. So is it fair to draw a direct line from the historical Klan to the MAGA movement that we see today? And, we want to talk about 2 recent books that we mentioned. That's Timothy Egan's and Linda Gordon's books. Mm-hmm. That's what they're doing. So let's Steelman the comparison first. I don't even know what that means. Since the arguments being made, proponents point to
really sexual. Is he down in the
Steelman? That's
Steelman. Down somewhere on Folsom. I'm into it.
Proponents point to a cluster of structural parallels. We have nativism and anti-immigrant rhetoric as an organizing energy, right? Mm-hmm. A lost cause style nostalgia for an idealized past version of this country. Christian nationalism as a unifying cultural thread, a decentralized network of loosely affiliated local groups rather than a hierarchical organization, and a shared reliance on fear-based, your group is under existential threat messaging. Mm-hmm. So that ties directly back to the terror management theory point that we talked about, that you talked about. So,
which is also a tired ass history. Christians, no one's trying to get you.
I know. Y'all are fine. You are not under attack. So the case against the comparison, which is also real, seriously argued position here. It's not a straw man. Critics point out the historical Klan was definitionally an actual terrorist organization whose stated purpose was organized violence like lynching, arson, murder, deployed specifically to prevent Black folks from voting or holding office, with a body count in the thousands. So
it's gotta be more than that.
I mean, hundreds of thousands, I'm sure, over the course of its history. Yeah. A mass political movement encompassing tens of millions of voters, most of whom have never engaged in or endorsed political violence. It is categorically different. And critics argue that flattening movements with racist elements and racist historical rhetoric echoes into the Klan does real damage to political discourse. It forecloses conversation rather than opening it up, and it's an accusation, not an argument. Now, I get it.
I know. I know. How do you...
I know.
You can't talk. I don't think this is a 2 things can be true at once.
I know. And it's like, if their numbers were bigger.
Yeah.
If they could get more people on their side with power, like the Klan did successfully.
Yeah.
Would it not become a movement predicated on violence against the other?
Isn't that what we're in?
I feel like it is
like government. To me, that's what government is now. It's organized. Well, respectfully, not all government.
Right.
Right.
I get it.
But I think that's what we have turned to.
I think that this assessment, yes, it focuses on violence as being one thing and one thing only. Mm-hmm. And I think that violence can be many things. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily have to equate to, God forbid, a lynching.
But look at ICE detention centers. Tell me
that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be a lynching to be called violence. It's still violence.
Well, and why are we so obtuse to that comparison?
I know.
That's what I don't understand.
This is, I think, in putting this together, this is what academics are saying.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily have to be what we think or what we're saying. Because to me, there's like we're saying, there's levels of violence, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In turning an innocent Latino family simply for being in the country without the right documentation or shit for the right documentation that you're deciding you're no longer accepting. Mm-hmm. Like putting them in a cage where they get sick, where it's cold, where the environment is fucked up. Like, is that not violence? Mm-hmm. So I think that's a good question. So we want to leave you with some questions here. So, the first question really is, when a movement rebrands or names itself Anti-Communist Christian Association instead of the Klan in one 1960s court case,
Foundation.
We would have spent a whole segment on at what point does the new label become a meaningfully different organization versus just a disguise? Mm-hmm. This is what we're discussing here. Mm-hmm. Carolyn, psychologically, if status threat is a better predictor of hostility than actual economic hardship, what does that suggest about which policy responses, like economic redistribution versus, say, direct efforts to reduce status anxiety or increase intergroup contact, are more likely to actually reduce extremism versus which ones just treat the symptom?
Right. Well, if status threat outpredicts actual economic hardship, that changes what fixing it even means.
Okay.
So redistribution addresses the material problem, the real worth doing, right? But it doesn't automatically touch the felt loss of standing, belonging, relevance.
Yeah.
And I'll say in a broader term, I think a lot of what we're dealing with in this age of anxiety is people who have concrete things that are supposed to mean something. And we're going back to that heartfelt sense of like, but what's my purpose?
Right.
Who am I? And am I what I do and all these things? And, the harder version of that question for our listeners, I think, is which of these are actually, which of all of these are we actually funding right now? And which are we treating like an afterthought? Because if status threat is the real driver, then the cheaper economic fix might not feel like progress in the moment, but leaving the actual economic engine of extremism is not being touched.
Okay.
And I feel like it's kind of like the fact that no one has ever come out and categorically said, this is not okay.
Yeah.
You can have freedom of speech, but hate speech is not freedom of speech.
Well, plenty of people have said that, but unfortunately,
it's not legally enforced though.
Well, that's where the Constitution becomes this really interesting doctrine, right? It's like, you may not like what you're hearing, but is it ultimately protected by the First Amendment?
Not when you have a judicial branch that is being taken over by what we would have called Klan members.
I think so. But also at the same time, there are still other folks, other jurists, other folks in lower courts who would concur with the ACLU, whom we love, who says these people do have the right to say these things and march in the street. I mean, it's incredibly bothersome.
But then they can't have positions of power then when
I agree.
Enact those things.
Yeah.
And again, that's where it's like, well, you're saying there's this public domain where you can't do this. But then in the public domain, you also can't have an abortion because our Bible doesn't think you should.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just feel like America talks out of both sides of their mouth and their ass.
Well, it's interesting. You have an organization like the ACLU that is really trying to be impartial. Like, everybody sees them as a left-leaning organization, but they're just simply protecting the Constitution and see the Constitution as an evolving document. At the same time, we talked about, them defending the right of Nazis to march and NAMBLA to meet in public places. They are truly trying to be objective in that sense.
I think we're past that.
I think so too, to an extent. I don't want to see these people being given privileges when I think what they're doing is fundamentally harmful to our society. But it's the Constitution. I think that the founding fathers were really intentional in saying, like, all right, there's going to be different interpretations of this document through the ages for as long as it endures. And maybe they couldn't have foreseen it enduring for as long as it has, because we are the oldest democracy to have survived. But that's where we are.
Yeah.
And it creates some really interesting bedfellows.
It just doesn't feel like it's democratic for everyone, though.
I know. I get
democratic for who?
Well, and it depends on who's in power. And yes, it depends on who's in the Supreme Court, what their
and what your
interpretation
skin color is.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that that's the same rules for this everyone.
No.
So it just, I think it's hard. It's just hard. I think if the Catholics can turn around at Mass and face the crowd, I think we could get rid of NAMBLA's right to assemble.
I know. And it's true. It's also who is on that bench at the Supreme Court, right? Like we have a Supreme Court ruled on Brown versus Board of Education. We have a Supreme Court that ruled on Plessy versus Ferguson. They've done some amazing and Roe v. Wade initially, and then subsequently overturned it.
See, I don't think it should get to go back. I think once you make a rule, it's like fucking Yahtzee.
It's
like,
done. It's set in stone.
It's done.
We're writing it with a pencil on our little Yahtzee pad, and that is fucking
the end.
But I mean, we should do a whole episode on the Supreme Court justices essentially being political animals, but how they sometimes will bite the hand that feeds, i.e., like make decisions that piss their ruler off. Like even the Supreme Court has made decisions that have pissed off Trump, who put them there to begin with. So anyway, we went down a whole fucking rabbit hole. So final thought on this, guys. We got to wrap this up.
Don't you love when we try and do serious things?
we really, we're over an hour here. So where does this leave us? So the Klan wasn't one organization, but three distinct movements, right? Each reflecting the fears of its political era. And while today's Klan is small, many of the psychological and social forces that it fueled, status threat, dehumanization, the mainstreaming of extremist ideas, those are still relevant. More so now than I've seen in my lifetime. So if you want to dig deeper, we definitely recommend Linda Gordon's The Second Coming of the KKK and Timothy Egan's A Fever in the Heartland and Fatali Mogdam's.
That's the name I couldn't say. Staircase to Terrorism.
Staircase to Terrorism. I feel badly. I can't pronounce this person's name.
Fatali Mogdam.
As always, guys, take a look at what we put in our resources. We always encourage you to read broadly, compare sources, do your own research. You know, these people that we're seeing right now, they're being emboldened by the highest authority in our country. And history teaches us, this is the big takeaway. History teaches us that when this happens, we need to do more than just pay attention. We need to treat this as a legitimate threat. So whether or not these fuckers are tantamount to the Klan of the past, or any other hate group that's come before, really is irrelevant.
Right.
They are a threat. Yeah. And they need to be treated as such. And we have to do that before things change for the worse. Because we've seen this before in human history. So pay attention, speak out, fund groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center and the ACLU, because they're actually fighting and winning cases. And so, you know, I know it feels helpless sometimes, but that's what you can do. Give your money to these organizations if you cannot personally, physically contribute by showing up to certain things. So, and we get that. Not everybody has that option and opportunity. So I have stuff in my teeth. I'm going to go pick it. We hope you enjoyed this dark ass episode. yeah, we'll be coming at you with some more darkness here in the very near future. Follow us at twatjc on TikTok for some everyday darkness. We typically post on a daily basis. Instagram is a shit show, but we're the world according.
You got a lot of lovely comments.
Did I really?
Yes, I meant to show you that. We got some twats on there.
Oh, we do?
Not bots.
Oh my God.
I know. I forgot which post it was.
I have no idea. I don't pay attention to Instagram.
I was like, wow, John, they like you this time. They're not calling you.
Oh my God. Maybe we've
a beta.
Maybe we've built up a following of decent human beings.
Maybe.
Anyway, the real following of decent human beings for us is on TikTok.
Yay.
Come join us. We love you. Thank you for listening.
Ta-ta.
Bye.
Bye.